When you go to vote, what are your non-negotiables when you get to the voting booth? I have Stuart Shepard here. We are at NRB, the Christian Media Convention in Nashville, and I'm happy to have with me a guy who's a business owner. He owns a couple of direct marketing companies, runs a couple of websites to help people out with making decisions when it comes to voting. He's run for office along the way, and I thought he's somebody I want to talk to because he also wrote a book called The Christian Voter, 7 Non-Negotiables for Voting For, Not Against Your Values. He's also written a couple of marketing books, but this is the one that caught my eye. And did I mention he's from California, which is not exactly a place known for conservative values. Hi, Craig.
Stuart, it's great to be with you. Yes, in California, people can vote their values, just like they can all over the United States. But Christian liberty is foundation to any type of vote.
Yeah. This is Craig Huey. I should give his full name. And I appreciate you making time for us.
Right.
Just a couple of summers ago,
yes.
We took this show to California,
yes.
and we did a series of episodes during COVID with the lockdowns. We talked to worship pastors who were breaking the law by leading singing, congregations that were being threatened with fines just for having meetings on Sunday.
Yeah.
What's it like now?
You know, it's still in an oppressive state. That's the sad news. So many pastors caved and bowed their knee to Caesar. They would not stand for what was right. Those who did stand for right, their churches are booming. People are coming that had never come before. The people who closed down, they forced people to wear masks. They told the worship leaders to wear. Kids were in bubbles. Kids were in masks. These are the churches that have been suffering. So more and more are still opening up as California laws are changing, but there's a spirit of fear and oppression like somebody in a free state like Texas or Tennessee, Florida can't quite understand, can't quite comprehend how different it is.
Well, we're based in Texas, and we kind of loosened things up quite a while back, so it's hard to imagine what it must be like to be there. What has the church learned from this experience over the last couple of years?
Well, first of all, the church better learn something because the government could do this again. It could be any type of crisis that a politician manufactures and close down the churches. What has happened with closing down the churches has been devastating to student ministries, to working in the community, to seniors, to singles, you name it. Women's ministries, men's ministries closed down, home Bible studies closed down. You can't even sing closing down. They could do this again. And of course, we've got the Supreme Court decision. But you still have attacks on the church, like Calvary Chapel, San Jose. They have so much fines against them, and they're not doing away with the fines, even though the courts have come down in favor of opening the churches. You know, it's dramatic. And those pastors who stood, they opened their doors illegally. Stuart, they're Christian heroes. They stood up and said, I'll be a martyr. I'll take a chance of being arrested. I'll take a chance of being fined. I'll be a chance, the people are coming to church. They could find themselves arrested. Yeah, Can you imagine that in America?
I went to a couple of those services, and I'm standing there, it's a church service. I've been in a lot of church service, but it was one of the most moving things I've ever seen because I realized everybody sitting in front of me is a scofflaw.
That's right.
Who's saying we're not going to bow to this.
You know, I went to Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, when they opened up illegally. That was sometime in May of 2020. Under threats, the church was packed, and the pastor gave a salvation message. There's a church called Godspeak in California with Pastor Rob. And Pastor Rob, he opened his church. My wife and I, we went to that service. The government said that they were going to arrest him and 500 of the people attending.
Wow.
My wife and I pull up knowing this is going to get pretty ugly. The press was there. The government officials were there. The police were there. We go in and we see the parking lot full, and we came a half hour early. We see just over 1,000 people standing out in front. you know what happened? Churches in the local area, churches outside of that area, the people came to stand outside while the people went inside to hear the pastor in the church service, so the people on the outside would be arrested before the people in the church.
Wow.
And they were out there praying and willing to go to jail to protect brothers and sisters in Christ.
First Liberty Institute won one of the first victories against that kind of oppression in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes.
They just wanted to have their Easter service
Yes.
in the parking lot in
Right.
their cars.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a real expert on, CDC guy, but
Right.
I'm pretty sure you don't pass COVID from vehicle to vehicle.
No.
I want to talk about your book a bit
Yes.
because this is what caught my eye and why I wanted to talk to you today. You say there are 7 non-negotiables.
Correct.
We don't have time to go through all 7, but I want
Right.
to hit some
Sure.
highlights. The very first one that you say is non-negotiable for a
Yes.
Christian voter is protection of Christian liberty.
Yes, Christian liberty, of course, includes being able to have the right to go to church, right to have a home Bible study, but it goes far beyond that, because right now, ideologically driven bureaucrats are at war with Christianity. They're trying to use the federal government and some states like California, the state government, to transform culture and politics that has a secular, anti-Christian bias, anti-freedom bias, anti-capitalism bias. It's ideologically driven to promote socialism and Marxism.
Yeah.
And the sad part is that this is being done at taxpayers' expense, kind of under the radar. The Department of Justice and all the different agencies are moving in that direction. And of course, the most obvious is the Department of Education in trying to undercut Christian parents, Christian values in the schools. And so, as Christians, in the upcoming primaries and the election, there are school board candidates and city council candidates and assembly and state candidates that we could turn this around just like they did in Virginia. We can turn this around if people would say, I'm going to vote for, not against my values. And one of the key things, where does the individual candidate on whatever government level stand on the issue of protecting First Amendment rights, protecting Christian rights?
And one of the other points that you bring up, one of the highlights is a constitutionalist Supreme Court judges.
Yes.
And I went, oh yeah,
Yeah.
sign me up for that. I'm
Right.
for that. Now, we don't get to vote for Supreme Court judges, but our votes do count nonetheless.
No, but there's so many judges that are running for office in this upcoming election. I'm talking about over 1,000 judges.
Yeah.
And that's because you can actually vote for local judges, county judges, state judges. And these are the judges, when they get elected, can make decisions on closing down churches. They can make decisions on Christian liberty. They can make decisions on so many different things. So, I mentioned how the bureaucracy at state and national and even local level is against a Christian worldview. The judges are, because too many Christians either don't vote for or vote against their values in voting for the judges. And for that reason, we created a website called judgevoterguide.com.
Okay.
Judgevoterguide.com evaluates the judges, who are the judicial activists who want to legislate from the bench, and who are the strict constructionists who want to uphold Christian liberty, who want to uphold the Constitution. And every voter can use that website for free to see how to vote their values.
And it's also so important to remember, I mentioned we don't get to vote for Supreme Court justices,
Right.
but a lot of attention goes on the president. Oh, the president, he gets to nominate, and that's their legacy.
Yeah.
But it's also 100 races all
Yes.
over the country in the
Yes.
U.S. Senate that make a difference in who gets placed in there.
100%. So if you have an opportunity to vote for Senate in this race, that senator is going to vote for these judges or against these judges. And in the primary, one vote is like 10 votes. So few people vote. This is where we Christians can make a difference. This is where conservatives can make a difference. Libertarians can make a difference in the election.
Very good. A couple more real quick,
Yes.
because we're running out of time
Yeah.
here, but one of your highlights in your book for non-negotiables is protecting tax exemption for churches.
Yes.
That's becoming a hotter issue than I ever thought it would be.
Most people don't realize that thousands of churches would go out of business, if you will. I hate to use that term, but they
Yeah.
would be non-existent because so many people give because of tax exemption. And when that's taken away, these smaller churches are going to be undermined. So same thing goes with Christian organizations. So many Christian charities that are out doing great things, they won't have that tax exemption. So the politicians, the bureaucracy, is doing what it can to take away from that. So one of the key questions I have for every candidate before I would ever endorse them, where do you stand on the issue of tax exemption of churches and Christian organizations? Will you protect it?
Now, here's the key question, because people will always raise it on social media.
Right.
Well, I don't know why the churches are tax exempt anyway. They ought to pay taxes like everybody else.
Right.
Give me your rationale for why churches and nonprofit ministries should be tax exempt. What's the reason?
So the major reason is that these institutions do good works to the communities, no taxpayers' expense. They go out and reach the broken and the hurting, those in need. That's where ministry goes out. And it's not taxpayer supported. It's a major benefit to even an atheist taxpayer, because they're out doing what the government can't do. The other reason is this, that they're not making money. They're using the money to be able to do whatever their ministry is. To tax something like that makes no sense. It's designed as I forgot it. I think it was maybe you can help me. Judge Powers said,
yeah.
The power to tax is the power to destroy.
Yeah.
And that is what these collectivists in the bureaucracy, IRS, in the Senate, Congress, they realize that.
One of our pillars is an organization that does religious freedom cases.
Yes.
Has to do with the schools,
Yes.
The rights of school children in public school, but also the rights of parents to select the schools that they want for their kids.
Right.
And that's one of your points, is protection of homeschooling and Christian schools. Why is that so important when it comes to voting?
Because there's a war on homeschooling going on. There's those who want to do whatever they can to destroy it. And the educational establishment is so concerned as they see so many people withdrawing their kids from the propaganda and indoctrination of the government-run schools,
Yeah.
that now we have a situation where the taxpayers are moving away from the government schools. They've got to stop it because they're losing income. They're losing influence. There's a drain on the schools. Plus, they hate the fact of the parental rights of something that's not officially approved. And so, whether you're at the local school, state level, or national level, there is an attempt to be able to destroy homeschooling, stop school choice, to be able to destroy the rights of the parents. That's why, the Department of Justice comes out and says these parents opposing bad activities in school are terrorists. Whatever they can do to frighten, destroy, they will try to do.
Very good. Anything else you want to share before I let you go?
Well, I would just say this. The people who are watching this program, they have the ability, this election, to turn things around like never before, especially in their primary, to get involved in the local election. Find a candidate that you can trust that represents your values, whether it's prayer, donations, volunteering, texting, emailing, being able to make phone calls, go door to door. Get in on the grassroots. Do something. Don't complain about it. This is the future of our nation is in this election that's coming up. And to be able to have election integrity, to protect the vote, we need people to volunteer to be poll watchers and guard the ballot boxes. There's so much everybody can do. We've got to be able to mobilize Christians. We've got to mobilize people concerned about the direction of this nation.
Very good. Lots of good stuff in there. Craig Huey, thank you so much for making some time
Thank
for
you,
us,
sir.
chatting with us today.
Great, thank you.
All right. And thank you for tuning in. We will continue with more from NRB 2022 and First Liberty Live right here in the middle of it all.